Erin. She actually knows what she's talking about when it comes to A, the pandemic itself, and B, the measures that are being taken to try to curb it or even stamp it out completely, if that's even possible at this point. So, Erin, welcome to our little corner of the internet. How are you doing tonight?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is awesome. Very awesome. Yeah. So, can you just tell the audience what you do, what your title is, and what you do?
Sure. I'm Erin Stokes. I have my PhD in biochemistry. I work in clinical trials. I'm the senior manager of clinical and scientific affairs. I work for a contract company. We are recruited by pharma companies to run their clinical trials and provide services. I'm in charge of designing trials sometimes, writing them up afterwards, and organizing the data analysis of all clinical trials that come through us.
So basically what you're saying is you're the only real doctor on the stream right now.
Nah. But if you have a heart attack or anything like that, I'm going to be of absolutely no use.
Right. So you don't have the MD, you have the PhD. I think she's frozen. I think she's frozen. No.
Oh no. So I guess when she comes back, we can lead into mutations because there's more than one COVID-19, and I don't think people are aware of that. So we can get into. Oh, whoa.
I was about to say, did she get stuck in that prism that Superman trapped those? The
Phantom Zone.
Yeah, and then tucked them into space.
Yeah. Piece of broken glass.
Yeah, I was trying to move a little bit because my internet was going out. I wanted to see what the hell happened.
No, we need to hear what you have to say. We definitely need to hear more accurate information. We have people who will try to combat what the doctors and what the experts are saying by saying, "Yo, look at this guy's YouTube video." You should listen to him. He doesn't have any qualifications.
Oh, some guy sitting in his car with a trucker hat.
Yeah, the greatest thing that he's ever accomplished is that he was able to scratch both of his testicles at the same time. But we actually want to hear from people who are in the thick of this and basically, live trying to create solutions.
Yeah. Sure. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and part of it is because this is brand new and everyone's learning as we go, and they're releasing information as it comes. And sometimes the earlier information is contradicted by the later information, or we learn more as we go along. So just because in January something was printed, and even if it was completely credible at the time, it doesn't mean that it's credible now because we learned more. And science has done a remarkable job considering 1 year ago today, this was completely an unknown entity. And within 1 year, not only do we know the genetic information of this virus, we are in phase 3 clinical trials for vaccines. We're in so many different treatments. This is remarkable speed from the perspective of progress in pharmaceuticals. And people aren't necessarily aware of that, at how long it normally takes. At this stage, we're talking about what would normally take years in the making. We don't have an HIV vaccine, and we've known about HIV for God knows how long.
40 years.
This is, yeah, exactly. So these things take time, and we've made remarkable progress.
Here at Black Power Magic Hour, we've been reporting on kind of the global progress of the vaccine. Race for the vaccine. We've been from time to time, we've been checking in and seeing the kind of international rush to do it. It's kind of remarkable, even though we had one clip with it was because people don't know how to deal with it. It's unprecedented. We were laughing one night because China had this expo and they were just showing the boxes of the vaccines, supposed to be excited for the boxes, even though it's not even ready yet, but you're supposed to be excited to look at the tubes. So like you said, it fits right into the narrative of how it's a huge effort that's happening and people are not aware of it at all. In some
collaboration ways, on a scale that we normally do not see.
Yeah, exactly. Within the scientific community, they're releasing journals before they're getting peer reviewed, which is part of the problem of misinformation, because normally you would have a stricter screening process, but now everyone wants to get the information out earlier so that other people can try it and use it as quickly as possible. So, I mean, on the one hand, it's good because we're making accelerated progress, but at the same time, it's not as good because we're not suffering the same scrutiny that would be normally applied. We're just a race against time.
And it seems like another phase 3 trial was just put on pause because of an unexplained illness. Can you get into that a little bit, if possible?
Sure. So in general, in clinical trials, this type of thing happens all the time. These trials are massive. We're talking about thousands of people enrolled into these subjects and these studies. So sometimes, these safety things happen, and they may be related to the vaccine, or they may not be related. They have to stop and investigate. These things are serious. And if there is no clear, like, okay, this person had a completely unrelated incident, like they were hit by a truck, if there's any ambiguity, you need to investigate that thoroughly before you see if it happens again. And, and it's good that you pause everything just to make sure, like, okay, this safety concern is related or it's unrelated. Is it an anomaly that may happen 1 in a million and you got unlucky and found it quickly, or is it something entirely different? Is it actually?
I think we're losing her in the Matrix. No.
Yeah, so she's breaking up. So,
like, we get an actual expert, and the internet does not want
Related, and
there you go.
The internet is not cooperating.
Yeah. That's why Fios is a scam. And
I don't know. Do you have Fios? I have Fios. It's been working out pretty well.
I don't even have Fios, so
Okay.
Oh, so that's what it is. I'm like, no, we actually have to hear what she's talking about. So, from your vantage point, where do you?
I can move to a better location. I don't know, within my house. But then I would have to be walking along, and I wasn't sure you guys would want to watch me.
I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do. The message is more important than the pageantry, so to speak.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
So wherever you got to go, you do what you got to do. But in the meantime, I wanted to ask you about where do you see things, because they tried to turn this into a political thing. Trump promised that they were going to make sure that the vaccine was out before the election. It's like, dude, you're putting an arbitrary number on the researching of a novel, as in never seen before, virus. So can you kind of give us an idea of where exactly we are on the timeline?
I can do the best that I can. It has absolutely nothing to do with elections. Science and the progress of science is not based on the schedule of a politician, any politician for that matter. And
so Biden doesn't have any say?
He does not have the miracle that goes into this. The only thing that I will say is that when it comes to distribution of vaccines and policies to implement them, that is a political issue, and that should be a global cooperative issue, because we are a globalized economy, and the world is no longer isolated. It's not you can't just say, okay, this country gets vaccines and this one does not. I mean, that's irrelevant. Someone travels from one country to the other, you reinfect everyone. It doesn't matter. Viruses know no country boundaries. They don't recognize politicians in terms of, oh, this person has said that I can't infect them, so therefore it doesn't happen. It has nothing to do with that. And making a promise to have a vaccine before an election or any other pivotal moment in terms of a human institution is just meaningless. And at best, you're going to rush through something that has not been vetted for safety, and you're running the risk, or you're slowing something down because you're bottlenecking it just to meet your point. These are the only things that impact the advancement of the vaccine, and it would be unwise to allow your political leanings to get involved in the safety of the world.
Because then you're giving the anti-vaxxers ammunition when shit hits the fan. You're putting out a bunch of shit out there. You know, you're giving a bunch of people shots. You may get some more unexplained illnesses, and they'll point to it and say, "See, you know, you shouldn't ever use a vaccine." And then now we're back to the dark ages.
So so we have a question from Twitch. Is it possible a vaccine is not found? Will be searching forever for the next like 2 years
or 40,
whatever.
I mean,
never. Yeah,
it is possible.
Yeah.
And you can't, I mean, anything is possible. I mean, I can say that more effort has gone in a shorter amount of time to finding this vaccine than you could say for pretty much anything. Humans have eradicated diseases before. We have the power, but it takes major global cooperation. Smallpox was eradicated, at least for now. And that was great.
The military wanted to pull it out.
Or when the thermofrost uncovers more smallpox from, you know, decomposing things.
Scared.
I mean, that's a whole nother issue at hand. We will cross that bridge when we get there. But at this point in time, coronaviruses, we're seeing issues with immunity, not necessarily lasting immunity. So that may be an issue when it comes to a vaccine. And that's just an issue that you will address as you see fit. If you get, you know, a sustainable herd immunity for a longer period of time, you may be able to do yearly coronavirus vaccines like you do flu shots or something to that effect. It may be, or 6 months or whatever you can do, but either way, anything would be better than nothing.
Right.
Yeah, that was a really good question, Cranky Boomer. Like, I don't think people don't ask that kind of, even though it seems dark, but people don't ask that kind of obvious
people
questions.
Make assumptions like, oh, scientists will work on it, they'll do it, but then they still don't give the scientists the credit that they're due. It's very strange.
Yeah, so I want to drop our first video, and it's about Phil can drop it, and it's about the mutations. It's about the fact that there are multiple strains. So we're going to drop this video. I just want you to like hopefully make it make sense to us. So Phil can drop it real quick for us. It's just like a tutorial about how COVID-19 mutates. So hopefully you can fact check it for us.
The contents of this lab in Tempe, Arizona are so dangerous, so critical.
Everyone is coming in blind to this. This is a novel virus. It's not something we've seen before.
The only way we can speak to Assistant Professor Ephraim Lim is through Zoom, even though he's only a few doors away.
One of the things we're still keeping an eye on is on the evolution of this virus, because that virus is still around in our community.
In March, that community at Arizona State University played host to our country's fourth COVID-19 case. As soon as it was detected, Dr. Lim started studying how the virus mutates and sent his findings to the World Health Organization, something that still continues to this day.
This virus overall mutates pretty slowly, which is a good thing. However, we can have instances where the virus can have very large dramatic mutations, such as deletions in the genomes.
Like all living cells, as viruses evolve, their chemical makeup changes. In viruses like the flu, that happens frequently, which is why every year there is a new vaccine to treat whatever strain is expected to circulate. With COVID-19, Dr. Lim found those mutations happen slower.
Overall, the virus still seems to be pretty stable.
Which is great for scientists like Dr. Brenda Hote, who has been one of the country's leading virologists tasked with developing a vaccine.
It is very good news that the virus is not changing rapidly, and especially in the region of the virus or the protein that is the primary target, the spike protein, for vaccine development.
The spike proteins are those long stalks that make COVID-19 so recognizable. It's how the virus binds to our cells and infects them. The current vaccine being developed focuses on disrupting that process, but that could change if the virus adapts once a vaccine is introduced.
We will have to see over time, as the virus continues to circulate, as we put a vaccine into play, whether or not there will be any issues.
Precisely what Dr. Lim's lab will continue to work on, so when a vaccine does come out, it works to its fullest capacity.
We are still in a very good window of whatever that we are designing, and all the things that are in the pipeline right now should be able to be really effective
In Tempe, Arizona, I'm Dan Grothman reporting.
All right, so I'm not sure how much of that you were able to catch, but of what you were able to catch, can you kind of put some of that into layman's terms for us?
Sure. So in terms of the stability of this virus, that's actually a very impressive thing. This virus, unlike a lot of RNA viruses like influenza or HIV, is got a proofreading mechanism that often doesn't apply. Sorry, I'm just moving to a place where my internet might be better.
Yeah, that's great.
So that in itself makes the mutations less likely to happen. They do happen because obviously that is evolution. But this virus is relatively stable, and the less mutations you have, the less chances you're going to have a selectivity where it's going to put pressure to have one virus strain that's more virulent move through the population quicker. So that drives the selection factor down, which is a good thing. Also, the less chances of mutation, the less chances you're going to have a vaccine not work because the virus is mutated, or an antiviral not work because the virus is mutated. So that is a good thing about this virus. However, most of the time when you have mutations, it actually inactivates a virus. It's not like it's not like these things happen at random. So just because you randomly change a letter in a code does not mean you get better. Most of the time it means you get worse.
So my next question would be, knowing that this is a zoonotic type of virus, seeing that it has jumped species and has done like really bad damage to other species, is there any concern that when the RNA code changes when it goes from species to species, that it could be more dangerous if it comes back around to humans?
Yes, that is a possibility. Not because what happens with the viruses or any infection that crosses species, it can take a reservoir host, if you will, and it can populate within that host in like small confined things and then develop it itself. And then when it comes back to humans, it will be genetically different than what the human population was used to. So yes, that is a concern with any virus or bacteria that jumps from humans to animals.
I'm hearing I feel like internet gossip about, the red Cheeto in chief, Trump, is that he might have a particular strain of the coronavirus that the treatment this was able to be effective at. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's even true. I just like gossip because no one knows what's happening over there, so we have to all speculate.
Yeah, no, the information is subpar.
Yeah. So that's one of the theories I hear, that he has a strain that actually the treatment is working because of this particular strain he has, coronavirus.
I wanted to ask, within your professional circles, is there speculation about what he may or may not have had, or the treatments that he had, and whether or not, because I know that some of the treatments that they gave him were not actually approved yet; they were experimental.
Yes, that's true. He did have access to experimental medication and a cocktail of experimental medication.
Like Captain America?
No, trust me, that man had not turned into Captain America.
I hope not.
I mean, suicide rates would just go through the heavens.
It'd be like, I guess he'd be more like that guy from The Boys than Captain America.
Oh no! You're talking about Homelander. No.
Yeah. So in terms of the diseases variant from person to person, we haven't entirely figured out why some people get it worse than others. There's no real evidence that there are some strains that are known to be less virulent, but it's not really that has been identified as a problem. He got an experimental cocktail, but to be fair, he got better healthcare than anyone else in the United States will ever get.
Yeah, he got picked up by a helicopter from his front door.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just a testament that maybe
best Uber.
I mean, most people in this country do not have access to helicopters, nor do they get private wings of hospitals where they have multiple doctors and nurses on call.
next door is like an alien. Who knows? Is like, you know, he's getting that kind of treatment. Like, you know.
Yeah,
So,
you know,
so
they
I
took
wanna-
him to Roswell.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
It's like
poor people were more likely to avoid going to the hospital to even get diagnosed, and that gave the virus enough time to incubate and to overwhelm their immune system. If you look at what Trump got, you know, he's being tested constantly, and as soon as he's getting tested, they're taking him right to the hospital. Anytime he had any kind of adverse reaction, they took care of it immediately. You know, he had a better chance than anybody else.
It's like if I have diarrhea, and the next thing you know, SEAL Team 6 is coming in to bring me into the emergency room. Like it's like
Frankie Boomer says, imagine some guy like me getting helicoptered out of the projects.
I got a cough. Go.
Hell no, they're like,
it's national security. Get the vice
dead,
president in the bunker.
Sir, are you dead, sir? No. Okay, go home, sir.
So I want to shift to like the other another video, which is I thought they were genius. I want to shift to another video, which is this man. Tell me before you play, Phil. Like, do you know like the Regeneron, like the super villain Regeneron company? Who is these guys?
Regeneron, yes, yes, they're one of the bigger biotech pharma companies in the state of New York. They're located in Tarrytown, New York. I mean, the fact that the president can make a call and have somebody give him an experimental treatment is, you know, jury's still out on whether or not that's even remotely reasonable.
So the video about the play is actually from March.
I can't do that. Is that what you're saying? Like
I'm saying that,
I can't call Tarrytown.
I can't do that either. Nobody.
I mean, I'm physically closer to Tarrytown than Trump is. Like, I just can't call them.
So everyone heads up. Antibody treatments in Tarrytown, New York. Go get your treatments now. Trump said you can go get them. They're gonna be Trump said go again. He's got him handing them out. You know. So, but the thing is, I want to before I play, I want people to reflect what you were thinking, what was happening. This video is from March 2nd or like early March. So I want to keep you in mind and hear what he's talking about and like see how far ahead what he's saying. And I also know what were you guys doing in March 2nd when it came to the pandemic? Were you working? Did the lockdown happen yet? Were you worried about coronavirus in March 2nd? Can you guys remember what you were doing like early March at all? I just want to, just a real pop-up question.
Yeah, I remember distinctly the first half of March. The rest of it kind of blurred out. But I was kind of watching. I was kind of watching in the distance, thinking, "Oh God, this better not come to America. We cannot handle this." I have faith that China maybe be able to handle it because they have.
They were building whole hospitals. You know,
I know in days, and we can't even get people to agree that the Earth is round sometimes. So I mean, people have in America think that opinions and facts are synonymous. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. So I was very worried about it. And then it came and he's
smiling. Look at this video. He's smiling in this video. So keep in mind, you were worried. He was smiling. So, okay. So let's play this video, Phil.
You greeted me here today with an elbow bump. When you were at the White House yesterday, how did the president greet you?
Well, it's funny. Actually, everybody was shaking his hands, but I told him we ought to do a bump, and we actually did a bump.
Well, maybe he'll change his approach. Tell us about the kind of tone from the administration, from the president. What level of urgency were you sort of sensing in the room yesterday?
Well, there's no question that the entire administration that was there, the president, the vice president, head of the CDC, the head of the FDA, and a litany of others, the head of the HHS, Secretary Azar, they were all intensely focused on how quickly we could move forward. And I think what emerged was a three-part strategy. Basically, we look at whatever is available now, any antiviral that exists, and we try and throw it at this problem and hope that it works. I'm not super optimistic that that's going to yield something, but I'm hoping that it does.
You're not super optimistic?
I'm not super optimistic.
Why?
Well, for example, that was tried with Ebola, and it really didn't do that much, the standard antivirals. Now, maybe the coronavirus is a little different.
Yeah, this video is from March 4th.
I'm hopeful that
What about your company?
It sounds like yesterday, but
it's
kind of crazy.
Well, so we're actually, I want to just correct you. You said this began in January. This actually began about 35 years ago when
he knew a lot what was going on before a lot of people, like, so.
Chief scientist.
Yeah, he did, but I think it's very interesting. Are those docs that they're showing instead of
this is
like?
when it comes to vaccines, honestly, I look at CNBC for what's going on with the vaccine. So that's where you get the real news about the vaccines, you know.
Because you have to follow the money.
Yeah.
Antibodies that you could actually give to people to treat them. That's exactly what the team was able to do for Ebola, and we believe that's exactly what can happen here.
So you think your approach is going to be more effective ultimately in finding a coronavirus treatment than the standard?
Well, you know, I don't like to think of it we're competing against others. We're really competing against the virus.
No, but you're competing against thinking about it.
Well, that's it. That's at least the right thing to say.
Yeah, it's a good. It's a really good answer. Yeah. I love that answer, but
schools that are being shut down in this country.
his lips says something else, though.
Could you come up with a treatment that you felt worked well enough to forestall that kind of massive public reaction?
Well, I hope so. I mean, our timeline, we've laid it out publicly. We've showed it to people, and we're committed to keep you updated literally on a real-time basis. But where we are is we've immunized, these mice have been made. We've been working on them for decades. The technology, the seamless end-to-end technology is in place. We can go from immunization all the way to a giant 10,000-liter scale manufacturer. That's all in place. We've started the immunization. We already have.
Oh, see, this is March 3rd.
In them.
March 4th.
Weeks, we're going to screen them for the best couple that we think could block this virus. Then we're going to use our tricks to immediately get it into scale up and be making 200,000 prophylactic doses by August timeframe. Now, how quickly that can be deployed,
August. He said August and March.
How quickly that can be deployed will depend on some of the early data that we have, some animal data, what we will see in patients. But I think we'll work closely with Dr. Fauci.
Can we get a pause on this video?
Very quickly.
Sure.
Getting into
Their stocks are now 600. They're up to 600 now.
So here's my question for you, Erin. Does the CEO of Regeneron, is he, someone who, came up through the ranks as a scientist such as yourself, or is he just the money man who is being briefed by the actual scientists and then regurgitating information for the layperson?
I actually don't know his personal background, so I cannot say how he got his start or where he came from.
He appeared from the dimension. He's from Queens too.
Because he sounds like he's from Queens.
Yeah.
He does sound like he's from Queens. I can't speak to his personal background, but I can say what he was saying does make sense. It does fit in line. He at least he was briefed well if he didn't already know what he was talking about.
He sounded like he was briefed well. Yeah, he was meeting the president and Dr. Fauci in early March. His company, whatever, he's got a head start with a lot of other companies. So even if it's effective, then I guess that's what's happening. But it's the fact that that's what it takes. He used to be friends with Trump. Well, luckily, this guy is a friend with Trump, and he's making this treatment. I don't know. It's just kind of crazy what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's weird. One of the very few people that he points at that actually knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
This is true.
Yeah.
Unless you're in military time, and in which case it's
then you just fuck 24 hours a day.
This is wrong forever. Yeah, so he's worth $2.2 billion. He worked at he's a neurologist.
Okay.
So he developed, he has a background in that, but then he started making money in research. Like he struck some gold with some research, and now here he is, friends with Trump. Now Trump thinks he's Superman now because of it.
Man.
You're a Regeneron.
Yeah, so that's basically, I guess, the question that I have. We can continue the video.
Human trials by August, and your expectation is that even as you start human testing, you could quickly get some initial data and then potentially deploy even more broadly.
Exactly. And so our concept is, let's just not make, a lot of people would only be able to make a small amount that they can use for human testing, and then they'd have to solve the scale-up problem. I think our team's approach has allowed us to say we can do this in parallel. Let's start pouring out 200,000 doses of this stuff. Hopefully that will work prophylactically starting in August in parallel while we're doing the clinical testing. And as soon as we get a green light that it looks good, we'll be able to deploy those large-scale approaches.
Is there more that you need
Why does it
from the
look like
government right now? You already have an
that
expanded
stuff on top of the
partnership with
Regeneron
HHS.
name? It looks like
There
phlegm.
was some joking around from the president yesterday that the drug companies already have too much money. I mean, do you need more?
I was going to give a dark joke about COVID-19, but I'm not going to.
Right now, I think we're getting everything we need. I don't think it's literally enough money for us. I'm glad to see that there's a bipartisan approach to get a lot of money thrown at this, because if we don't have a lot of resources in all sorts of places, and there are smaller companies that need real dollars because they don't have the dollars.
Why are you thinking about the smaller companies so much?
Not constraining for us.
That's because bigger pharma companies buy out smaller companies.
Why is the CEO thinking about the smaller companies? Like,
it's important that the pharmaceutical and the biotechnology industry deliver. You know, we go astray sometimes, and as an industry, we don't always do everything perfect. And you could just look at the polls; everybody hates us. This is a time where I hope.
What? I don't hate you guys. I want you guys to save us. Save us. Who said I hate you? That's crazy.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I've gotten that one before.
What? Oh, Lord.
They're like, oh, so you sold your soul to the devil, and I'm like, nope, still got it, I swear.
It's because of these guys like this, probably.
Getting into help in these kinds of situations because the payoff isn't there at the end.
Yeah, we don't really manage the business that way. We try and do what's right, and our assumption, as my dad's motto always was, if you want to do well, do good, basically. And so we are trying to do well by doing good. The investors will be cared for. Our investors have, if you've been with us over the last decade, we were the 7th best performing stock. We hope we can do that again.
What about people dying?
It's always about the investors, you know.
And the rest.
If we save lives,
I just want to ask you to address one question that's come up with other companies.
Yo, CDC, they're really blunt in this news channel.
He was called out for not declaring that its Zika vaccine, if it developed one, would be affordable. A company ultimately dropped out of developing that program. Secretary Azar was asked if he could commit that this would be affordable. What can you say to that?
Look, I can tell you, it doesn't do us any good. We want to save lives to make something that's not affordable. And we've prided ourselves in making our drugs affordable, and we will make this drug affordable. There's only one buyer, probably the government, or if we do this individually, we're committed to making this affordable.
Individually?
I do think so. I think
I'm calling him up.
He's gonna hand
Terrytown.
out
Terrytown, that's where it's at.
What could be a catastrophic problem?
Do you think, August, we could be seeing a treatment if this goes well?
Well, we certainly will have the material made that could be deployed, and we have to do the testing. And
nice caveat.
And I know that Dr. Fauci was in that room, and he's committed to move rapidly. So is the HHS. And so as soon as we get data, we can do this. Remember, we got data through the NIH in the Congo, in a war zone, where this approach led to an overwhelming efficacy that saved lives, literally,
Ebola. Right.
for Ebola.
All right.
So.
I love that last line about the jungle, that they're able to do it in the jungle, but they can't do it in an advanced country. So I don't know. So
well, the jury's still out on us being an advanced country.
Exactly.
You really went there.
I did. I'm sorry.
Yep,
our healthcare
right
system
there.
is flawed.
This is the place to go there.
Yeah, I just when he says it's going to be affordable, I really, really hope that remains true. But we all know that the healthcare system doesn't work that way, and if you aren't insured, you may not have access to the medical care that you need. I mean, people die from diabetes because they can't get insulin, and just because they can't afford insulin. And
I just saw a doctor. A story of a doctor just came out that's treating COVID-19 patients who ended up with it, got a shot, and the hospital charged his insurance almost $11,000 for that shot, and the insurance company paid it.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's short-sighted to not treat everyone that's sick in this country, especially from an infectious disease.
Yeah, I mean, that's why our numbers are so high as well. Other ways, people are literally finding out they have pre-existing conditions when they get COVID. Oh, I just found out I had diabetes because I just came in for COVID. Like that's also, I'm hearing a lot of stories about that too. Like people are discovering their pre-existing conditions that they've been putting aside or didn't know about because of how poor the healthcare system is.
And they wouldn't even
know
that they had the Rona
Yeah.
if they didn't have an adverse reaction from it, because they would have just said, "Oh, it's a cold or a cough,
or
allergies," and then try to just wave it off.
So before we let you go, we want to keep you up all night. I just want a quick question about the idea of like what would a second wave look like in a particularly like New York City, because New York City in the first wave we kind of dealt with it, I guess, much saner, I guess, in other places. How do you feel the second lockdown is going to happen? Is there going to be a second lockdown in New York City at all, or is there a so-called second wave in the United States? Can we call it a second wave that we're going? Yeah.
In the United States, we'd have to end the first wave in order to technically have a second wave. But in terms of having another wave in New York, I unfortunately believe that is possible, if not likely. We have to be very vigilant. We have to make sure that when we see hotspots, we deal with them effectively. And, of course, we're learning as we're going. And most pandemic response and all that stuff was based on influenza. And that's not really a good model for COVID, because COVID doesn't behave the same way that influenza does. So the techniques that work for influenza do not work for COVID. And can
you hold on that though? I don't want to go past that, because a lot of the people who talked about the Rona, they looked at it and they say, well, they try to compare it to the flu's death rate. Oh, it's just the flu, right? So I think it's interesting that you say that the viruses not only are not the same, that that SARS-CoV-2 is not the same thing as some of the N number viruses that are out there. Can you kind of tell us just a little bit more, get a little bit more specific in the actual difference in the behavior of each virus? I think one's a DNA virus and one is an RNA virus.
No, influenza is also an RNA virus. Okay. It's just that it mutates at a much more accelerated rate, which is why you have to get flu shots as often as you do. But influenza, there's usually a set model that you can apply, that if one person gets infected, they infect a certain number of people from their infection. They'll develop symptoms really quickly, so you could isolate them very quickly. Like in the 1919 flu, the first sneeze, you could isolate someone because you're like, all right, there's a sick person. But with corona, we don't see that at all. You can be sick, you could be completely asymptomatic, or you could be mildly sick and not even notice, and you could be, the incubation time is so much longer. And there's these super spreader people who infect large numbers of people, and then there are some people who don't infect anyone unless they're in close contact, like the person in their house. And we haven't figured out why some people are so virulent and some are not. Like in South Korea, there was that one woman who went to a church event, and like 5,000 people came down with coronavirus because of this one person showing up to an event. And we see that with coronavirus. So that makes it more random. You can't plot and extrapolate the same way. You have to sit there and go, oh my God, you hit this unlucky number here. You came in contact with super spreader. Whereas if you didn't, you'd be fine. It changes how you control this virus completely differently in terms of population control.
Yeah, I think that's a dope final thing to leave on, like just to have stewing this, the idea that it's like whack-a-mole in some ways. So yeah. So thank you for coming out on the show. Hopefully you can come back again. We can do like a quarantine check-in. Hopefully we can do that again.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime we can have you on to give us accurate information to squash the misinformation, I'll be eternally grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much for having me.